The mystery of the Titanic's sinking has haunted people for over a century. For many, that explanation never felt complete. Some details were always missing, and certain parts of the story raised more questions than answers. Then, everything changed. Just recently, artificial intelligence was used in the most advanced deep-sea scan ever attempted. The project involved more than 200 hours underwater and over 700,000 high-resolution images. These were combined to create a full 3D model of the Titanic and the surrounding debris field. Every bolt, tile, and railing was mapped with millimeter precision. For the first time, researchers could see the entire wreck as if the ocean had been drained around it. But what the AI revealed went beyond anything researchers expected. It identified sealed compartments that don't appear in any official records. It showed damage that doesn't match what we know about how the ship broke apart. It found objects scattered far from where they should have been. These discoveries are forcing experts to take a second look at long-dismissed theories. Why were these features never documented before? How many of them were simply overlooked, and how many were kept out of sight on purpose? In this video, we'll explore what the AI uncovered, revisit the theories people were once mocked for believing, and reconstruct the Titanic's final hours in haunting detail. Before we start, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And now, let's dive in. Official story. For more than 100 years, the world has accepted a single version of the Titanic's sinking. The official story says the ship struck an iceberg late on April 14, 1912. The impact tore open the hull and allowed water to flood too many compartments. Just 2 hours and 40 minutes later, the Titanic disappeared beneath the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Over 1,500 people died in one of the worst maritime disasters ever recorded. This version has been taught in schools, shown in films, and accepted by history books. According to investigators, the ship broke apart under pressure due to flawed construction. Metallurgical studies later revealed weak iron rivets and brittle steel in key areas of the hull. These flaws may have caused the ship to tear apart faster than anyone expected. It became the most tragic example of overconfidence in modern engineering. The Titanic's design was celebrated at the time. It featured 16 watertight compartments meant to keep the ship afloat in an emergency. But the walls between those compartments did not reach high enough. As each section filled with water, it spilled over into the next. The bow dropped lower while the stern lifted upward. Survivors recalled how the ship eventually split in two before disappearing into the deep. But even in 1912, some testimonies didn't match the official version. Passengers described hearing strange vibrations and distant explosions after the iceberg hit. A few said they saw smoke coming from the lower decks long before the collision. Some believed the ship broke into more than 2 pieces. Their stories were mostly ignored or explained away. The simple version of events was easier to manage and accept. In the decades that followed, underwater missions revealed more complexity. The breakup pattern on the seafloor was more chaotic than expected. Parts of the hull showed clean fractures, while others appeared torn and warped. Questions remained about how the ship could have failed in such a strange way. Still, the main narrative stayed unchanged. An iceberg struck, the ship broke, and it sank. But something new has shifted the conversation. A recent scan of the wreck, using advanced artificial intelligence and over 700,000 high-resolution images, has given researchers the most detailed 3D reconstruction ever made. Every bolt, tile, and fragment was captured with extreme accuracy. For the first time, the entire wreck can be studied as if the ocean had been drained around it. And what the AI has revealed in that scan may change everything. Watch this video till the end, and we'll show you what the scan uncovered, and why some experts now believe the true story of the Titanic's final hours might be very different from the one we were told. Do you still believe the official story is the full truth, or has the time finally come to question what really happened in the dark that night? Tell us what you think in the comments. Our team needs your help. Subscribe to our channel to help more people learn the truth about current events. And now, We move on. Alternative truth. Long before artificial intelligence brought new data to light, questions about the Titanic had already taken root. Over the decades, researchers, writers, and independent investigators pointed out patterns that felt too strange to ignore. The disaster happened fast, and it benefited some of the most powerful people in the world. One theory focused on a deliberate ship swap. The Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic, had been damaged in a prior collision and was facing expensive repairs. Some believe the ships were secretly switched. If the Olympic sank under Titanic's name, White Star Line could collect the full insurance payout. Since the two ships were nearly identical, only a few small changes would need to be hidden. Crew members could be kept quiet, passengers would never know, and the company would recover its financial losses. But the theory that continues to spark the most debate involves the people who died and the people who didn't. On board the Titanic were three of the wealthiest and most influential men in America: John Jacob Astor IV, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. All of them opposed the creation of a central banking system in the United States. That system, later known as the Federal Reserve, was in development at the time of the sinking. One man who strongly supported the Federal Reserve idea was J.P. Morgan. He was also the owner of the White Star Line, the company that operated Titanic. Morgan had booked a private suite on the ship's maiden voyage, but just before departure, he canceled his trip with no clear explanation. When news of the sinking spread, people began to connect the dots. The three men standing in the way of centralized banking were dead. The man who stood to benefit had stayed behind. The theory suggests the sinking was no accident, but a cold, calculated plan to remove key opponents to the Federal Reserve. Within a year, the central bank was approved and signed into law. The deaths of Astor, Guggenheim, and Straus were seen by some as the final obstacle being cleared away. Was this coincidence, or a targeted purge masked as tragedy? Could the Titanic have been part of a much larger plan? And if so, who else knew about it? Let us know what you believe in the comments. Now, please take a moment to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it helps YouTube's algorithm promote our videos to a wider audience. Fire and explosion. Another theory that refuses to disappear involves something most people never heard about. Some researchers believe the Titanic was already damaged before it ever touched an iceberg. In one of the coal bunkers, a fire may have been burning for days before the ship even left port. Photographs taken before departure appear to show a large dark mark on the starboard side of the hull. That area is exactly where the iceberg made contact. Coal fires on ships were not unusual at the time. They often burned slowly and were controlled by rotating fuel. But the fire on Titanic may have been different. Reports suggest it was burning at high temperature for several days. Some say the fire weakened the steel bulkhead in Boiler Room 6. That damage would have gone unnoticed by passengers and most of the crew. But in a moment of crisis, it could have made the ship far more fragile than expected. Stokers working below reportedly struggled to control the fire throughout the voyage. Some survivor accounts mentioned unusual heat and smoke in the lower decks. At least one fireman claimed they had been ordered to keep quiet about the fire. According to this version, the ship's officers knew about the risk but chose to continue the journey anyway. The pressure to meet deadlines and protect reputations may have outweighed safety. The idea of a fire damaging the hull is serious enough, but it connects to something even more troubling. Some survivors described hearing explosions after the iceberg strike, not just sounds of tearing metal or breaking rivets, but deep, thunderous blasts. A few people claim to feel the ship shake from within. Could a buildup of gas, steam, or pressure have triggered a secondary internal failure? Others wonder whether something in the cargo hold could have played a role. The full list of items carried on board has never been released in detail. We know there were paintings, gems, and personal belongings. But were there chemicals or devices that could have detonated under the right conditions? There's no official proof of that. Still, the idea of an explosion has come up again and again across decades of independent research. For decades, these ideas were labeled as speculation. But the recent AI-generated 3D scan has revealed structural deformation around Boiler Room 6. Some areas appear warped in a way consistent with prolonged internal heat. That kind of detail was invisible until now. AI may not prove the fire theory beyond doubt, but it has definitely put it back on the table. Could the Titanic have been slowly failing from the inside before it even hit the iceberg? Was the disaster already unfolding while passengers sipped champagne on the upper decks? Leave a comment and tell us your theory. Share this video on X and Facebook to help us grow. Every share counts. Earlier expeditions. For over 70 years, no one knew exactly where the Titanic lay. Its final resting place remained a mystery, hidden beneath 2.5 miles of cold Atlantic water. That changed in 1985 when oceanographer Robert Ballard led a team that discovered the wreck using a remote-controlled submersible. What they found surprised even the experts. The Titanic was not lying in one piece as many had imagined. It had split in two, and the two halves were separated by more than 2,000 feet of ocean floor. Between them was a wide field of scattered debris. Furniture, shoes, dishes, and even unopened champagne bottles were strewn across the seabed. The breakup pattern raised new questions. Why had the ship fractured the way it did? And why was the debris field so large? Later expeditions in the 1990s and early 2000s brought improved cameras and robotic arms. These missions recovered hundreds of artifacts and mapped parts of the wreck in greater detail. The salvage rights were claimed by a company called RMS Titanic Inc., which led several dives and exhibitions. Critics accused them of disturbing a grave site, but their work did reveal parts of the ship never seen before. Divers examined the grand staircase, sections of the engine room, and parts of the stern that were badly twisted and flattened. Many were surprised by the level of destruction. The stern section looked violently shredded, almost as if it had been crushed from within. This did not fully match the idea of a simple structural failure caused by water pressure. Some experts suggested that the breakup happened while the ship was still above water, not during the final plunge. Expeditions also revealed inconsistencies between the Titanic's blueprints and what was found on the seafloor. Some sections of the ship were missing, others seemed altered. Certain bulkheads appeared thinner than expected. In some places, the damage looked too clean, as if sections had sheared off with surprising precision. These anomalies added fuel to theories that something more was at play. But early missions had major limitations. Visibility at that depth was poor. The water was pitch black, and lights reached only a few feet ahead. Sonar helped, but it lacked fine detail. Remote cameras could only go where the cables allowed. The wreck was simply too large, too deep, and too broken to capture as a whole. Every expedition produced fragments. No one could see the complete picture. Even with all the dives and recovered items, researchers were still piecing together a puzzle with missing parts. That is what makes the recent AI scans so different. It is the first time the entire wreck has been mapped at once, in full 3D detail, including the debris field. Every surface, every fracture, every collapsed beam is now digitally preserved. For the first time ever, the Titanic can be studied as a whole, not just in fragments. What do you think earlier expeditions may have missed? Were the clues always there, just hidden in the shadows? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. AI awakens. In 2023, the wreck of the Titanic was scanned in a way that had never been possible before. Using cutting-edge submersibles and artificial intelligence, researchers created the most detailed 3D model of the ship in history. For the first time, the Titanic could be seen as one complete structure, captured in stunning clarity. The project required over 200 hours of dive time and more than 700,000 high-resolution photographs. Every angle of the bow, stern, and debris field was recorded. AI systems then stitched these images together into a millimeter-accurate 3D reconstruction. Every bolt, railing, and fragment of metal was documented. This was no artistic interpretation. It was the real ship, frozen in time and brought back to life digitally. Earlier expeditions could only show fragments of the Titanic. They captured sections of the bow, isolated views of the stern, and scattered items on the seafloor. But now, for the first time, the entire wreck could be observed as if the Atlantic had been drained. Researchers could rotate the 3D model, zoom into hidden compartments, and explore details that had been invisible for decades. The AI did more than create. It analyzed the wreck with a level of precision no human could match. Algorithms scanned every surface, detecting structural weaknesses and anomalies. They highlighted warped metal, clean fracture lines, and areas where the hull had failed in unexpected ways. Many of these findings contradicted long-held assumptions about how the Titanic broke apart. One particularly striking discovery was the mapping of sealed sections deep within the wreck. These areas had never been photographed before. The AI also uncovered evidence that the stern might have suffered internal pressure damage before it hit the ocean floor. This is forcing experts to rethink the events of the ship's final moments. The debris field also told a new story. AI traced hundreds of pieces back to their original locations on the ship. Some fragments were found over a mile from the main wreck, suggesting that parts of the vessel may have been ejected during the breakup. These insights are helping researchers reconstruct the timeline of the sinking in ways that were impossible before 2023. This scan is not just about technology, it is about rewriting history. For more than a century, the Titanic was a puzzle with missing pieces. Now, those pieces are starting to fall into place. But some of the answers raise even bigger questions. Could the AI findings mean that the official story is incomplete? Were there clues buried in the wreck all along, waiting for the right tools to uncover them? What do you think? Do these new scans prove we've been wrong about the Titanic's final hours? Let us know your opinion in the comments. Structural anomalies. Once the full scan of the Titanic was complete, the real surprises began. Artificial intelligence was tasked not only with building a model, but also with studying it. It was trained to detect patterns, stress points, and unusual features. The goal was to help predict how much longer the wreck might last, but instead, the AI started identifying anomalies that no one had expected. The AI flagged sections of the keel that showed near-symmetrical failure points. These areas should have displayed chaotic, uneven breaks if the ship had fractured only from water pressure and stress. But what the model revealed looked more precise. Some of the breaks ran along straight lines, as if the structure had given way in a clean, almost engineered fashion. This didn't match what was expected from a natural disaster. One of the most surprising findings was the condition of the rivets. For years, weak rivets were blamed for much of the damage. It was said that they popped under stress, causing the hull plates to separate. But in several sections of the scan, rivets remained intact. They held strong, while the metal around them showed signs of internal shearing. This suggested the pressure might not have come from the outside. Instead, something may have happened from within. The AI also revealed deformation in parts of the stern that didn't align with water damage. Some beams were bent inward, as though pushed by force from inside the ship. These patterns challenged everything experts believed about how the Titanic broke apart. The idea that the ship simply tore in half under strain no longer made sense in light of these results. There were other surprises too. Certain walls and bulkheads appeared to be missing entirely or were much thinner than expected. In some places, structural elements were found where none should exist. The scan revealed sealed compartments that do not appear on any known blueprint. Whether they were added after construction or hidden from documentation is still unknown. The angles and positions of the wreck's halves also raised questions. The distance between the bow and stern had been measured before, but the new model showed that many small pieces of the ship were scattered in patterns that didn't fit the timeline of a slow, gravity-driven descent. Some experts now believe that multiple structural failures happened in a chain reaction, not just one sudden break. All of this adds up to a new possibility. The Titanic may have suffered more than just a collision and a breakup. It may have experienced an internal systems failure, or even multiple structural collapses that started long before the final plunge. The clean lines, the sheared plates, and the sealed compartments all suggest a more complicated end. Of course, these findings are not conclusive on their own, but when seen together, they form a picture that challenges the narrative accepted for more than 100 years. And this picture was only made possible because of what artificial intelligence could see that humans never could. So what caused these anomalies? Was it poor construction, design flaws, or something more intentional? Could the breakup of the Titanic have been far less random than we were told? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do these details change your view of what really happened that night? Hidden compartment. While scanning the forward cargo section of the Titanic, the AI detected something unusual. Buried beneath collapsed beams and layers of sediment, there appeared to be a sealed room. It was not marked on any public blueprint. Most previous expeditions had missed this section entirely because of how it was buried and blocked from sight. But the 3D model revealed its exact shape and proportions. The chamber was rectangular, reinforced, and separated from nearby spaces by thick walls. Its dimensions matched a section labeled on early ship plans as the purser's safe room. According to rare archival documents, this compartment was intended for the storage of high-value cargo. It may have been designed to transport diplomatic material, financial contracts, rare jewels, or other private holdings. For decades, historians assumed the room had been destroyed in the sinking. No survivor ever mentioned it. No expedition ever documented it. But the AI scan showed it still intact, sealed off from the surrounding wreck. The way it had collapsed protected it from full exposure. The debris formed a kind of shield that kept the space undisturbed for over a century. Inside the scan, one particular object caught attention. In the center of the room was a rectangular shape with an unusually dense signature. It was likely metallic, possibly a lead-lined box. This material was commonly used in the early 1900s to shield sensitive documents or protect valuable cargo from fire and water. The object was placed deliberately, not randomly thrown by the impact. Speculation grew quickly. What could be inside a sealed safe that no one was ever meant to find? Some suggested it could hold government papers from the British Empire. Others believed it might contain business records linked to powerful financial families. Theories even connected it to J.P. Morgan, who canceled his voyage at the last moment. Could the contents of this box have played a role in that decision? The AI could not open the safe, but it captured its dimensions and surface reflections. The container appeared undisturbed, without visible cracks or corrosion. Its position had not shifted far during the sinking. That alone was surprising, given the chaos of the wreck. Whatever it contains has remained locked away, untouched and preserved by pressure and cold. Legally, the room and its contents now raise difficult questions. The wreck is protected under maritime law, and disturbing certain parts of it is restricted. But interest in the chamber is growing. Some researchers are calling for a dedicated mission to explore it further. Others warn that whatever lies inside may be better left sealed. So what is this room hiding? Is it just a forgotten storage space, or something far more significant? Could this single compartment rewrite the purpose behind the Titanic's final voyage? Let us know in the comments what you think. If you could open that safe, what would you expect to find? And why do you think it was never mentioned before? Titanic curse. For more than a century, the Titanic has remained one of the most powerful symbols of tragedy. But to some, it feels like the story never really ended. As each new attempt is made to uncover its secrets, the ship seems to push back. Whether by coincidence or something more, the Titanic has a long history of strange events connected to those who approach it too closely. The wreck site was discovered in 1985. Since then, dozens of expeditions have explored the remains. Some recovered priceless artifacts, others faced technical failures, rough conditions, or financial collapse. Several companies that attempted salvage operations later went bankrupt. One diver was reportedly lost during an early mission. His body never recovered. These incidents, whether coincidental or not, gave rise to whispers of a curse. The Titanic has also been at the center of long and costly legal battles. For decades, the company RMS Titanic Inc. fought for exclusive rights to salvage and exhibit objects from the wreck. Some courts treated the site as a protected grave. Others treated it as property. These disputes caused years of delay and drained the resources of those involved. Even companies with strong backing walked away after losing time and money. Every effort to disturb the site seemed to come with unexpected consequences, but nothing compared to what happened in 2023. A small submersible named Titan, operated by the company OceanGate, descended toward the Titanic with 5 people on board. They included a billionaire explorer, a father and son from a well-known family, and a veteran Titanic researcher. The dive was part of a mission to observe the wreck with their own eyes. Less than 2 hours into the descent, all contact was lost. A massive search began, but days later, debris from the sub was found on the ocean floor. Experts confirmed that the Titan had suffered a catastrophic implosion. All 5 men were killed instantly. The vessel was just hundreds of meters from the Titanic when it failed. The tragedy shocked the world and reignited old fears. People began to wonder once again whether the Titanic was meant to be left alone. The wreck has claimed more than just the lives lost in 1912. Even in modern times, it seems to bring danger to those who pursue it. Some say this is coincidence. Others feel that the ship carries an energy that resists disturbance, a symbol of human pride and loss that still demands respect. There is no proof of a curse, but history has shown that the Titanic continues to affect those who try to unlock its secrets. Perhaps it is not the ship itself, but the weight of its story that leaves a mark. Still, the pattern is hard to ignore. So, what do you think? Is the Titanic just a wreck or something more? Should we keep digging into its secrets or finally let it rest? Share your thoughts in the comments. Buried object. While the AI scan revealed countless new details about the Titanic, one discovery stood out. Beneath the debris field, the system detected something strange. It was not part of the known ship structure. It was not listed on any blueprint. It was a large, dense object embedded in the seafloor, directly below a collapsed section of the stern. At first, researchers assumed it was just a buried piece of the hull, but the scan showed something different. The shape was too uniform. Its edges were clean, and its material signature did not match the surrounding debris. It reflected in a way that suggested smooth metal, possibly still intact after more than a century under pressure. The object had mass, density, and symmetry, and yet no one knew what it was. The AI flagged the find as an anomaly. It stood out against the surrounding silt and wreckage. Measurements showed that it was not a random chunk of steel. It had consistent depth, corners, and surface structure. Some experts believed it could be a sealed compartment that had broken off during the sinking. Others suggested it might be a container that had fallen or been placed there deliberately. What made the discovery more unsettling was the object's location. It rested beneath the known edge of the stern, in a spot that had never been thoroughly scanned before. Early expeditions missed it because of thick sediment and poor visibility. Only now, with high-resolution scanning, could it be seen. Its position suggests it did not drift there after the breakup. It may have been there from the very start. Some have speculated that the object could be a reinforced vault or a structural casing for something valuable. Others think it could be unrelated to the Titanic, possibly something left behind during an earlier expedition. There are even theories that it might be an emergency storage unit built into the ship but never publicly acknowledged. No conclusion has been reached, and the object remains untouched. Because of its depth and location, further exploration would be difficult and expensive. Any attempt to uncover it would require special equipment and legal permissions. The Titanic is a protected site under international agreements, and disturbing certain areas is restricted. That makes access to the buried structure unlikely in the near future. Still, the image from the scan remains. A clear geometric shape hidden under the wreck for over 100 years, waiting to be explained. It might mean nothing. It might mean everything. For now, it remains one of the most curious pieces of the puzzle. So what do you think this object could be? Just another broken part of the ship, or something that was never supposed to be found? Share your theory in the comments. Titanic's final hours. Let's recreate the final hours of the Titanic based on hard evidence, not legend. After more than a century of mystery, a recent full-scale 3D scan of the wreck has offered the clearest picture to date. Using over 700,000 ultra-detailed images and 200 hours of deep-sea diving, experts created a digital model of the ship accurate down to every bolt, pipe, and broken beam. This is not an animation or a dramatization. It is the Titanic exactly as it lies, scanned by artificial intelligence with millimeter precision, and what it revealed was stunning. Several of the ship's massive boilers were found to be caved inward. This damage pattern suggests they were still active at the moment the ship plunged. That alone confirms that Titanic's power system did not simply fail. It kept going even after the iceberg strike. Nearby, a steam valve was discovered in the open position. That valve once helped power the ship's electrical systems. Its current state suggests that engineers kept energy flowing to lights and pumps right to the bitter end. This finding confirms decades-old survivor accounts. In the darkness and panic, the lights never went out. That was not luck. It was sacrifice. Dozens of engineers remained in the bowels of the ship, feeding coal into roaring furnaces. They knew the escape boats above would never be enough. So instead, they stayed and worked. Because of them, thousands had light to see and a few extra minutes to get out. All of them died below deck. These final moments were not just about metal and water. They were about choices. And the new scan gives us hard proof that these choices mattered. It is not a romantic myth anymore. It is something you can now see in the wreck itself, in the bent machinery, in the still open valves, and in the ship's broken but still defiant skeleton. The scan also debunks old assumptions about how the iceberg caused the disaster. There was no single long gash. Instead, there were 6 small punctures across 6 watertight compartments. The Titanic was only designed to stay afloat with 4 compartments breached. 6 meant it was doomed from the moment of impact. It explains why the ship sank so quickly and why so many did not make it off in time, even with the power still running. But as advanced as AI has become, it cannot explain everything. It cannot scan motives or reconstruct hidden agendas. The scan cannot tell us whether JP Morgan wanted to eliminate rivals or sabotage a deal. It does not prove or disprove insurance fraud, cargo swaps, or cursed objects. Those ideas still live in the shadows, beyond the reach of sonar. But the fact that they cannot be confirmed does not mean they are false. The Titanic's final hours are no longer just a tragedy frozen in time. They are a story of endurance, sacrifice, and unanswered questions. Maybe that is what keeps the ship alive in our collective memory. Not just the sinking, but how it ended and what remains unsolved. What do you think is more important? What the scan revealed or what it still could not explain? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for exploring the hidden corners of the Titanic with us. Click on the video you see on the screen to check out other hidden discoveries on our channel.